Well, with campaigning now done in Zimbabwe, the focus is on voting day tomorrow, where millions will cast their ballots. The race for this year's polls is between the incumbent president, Emerson Mnangagwa of ZANU-PF, and Nelson Chamisa of the Citizens Coalition for Change. Many are hoping this election could end a lengthy economic crisis in what was once considered one of Africa's most prosperous countries. But for more on this story, let's bring in SABC News reporter Khayelihle Khumalo. Khayelihle, good morning to you. Talk to us about really what it's starting to look like in the run-up to those elections that kick off tomorrow. Are we seeing a peaceful situation on the streets of Harare?
Well, essentially, Harare really has been gripped by an election fever. You can really see the great deal of anticipation for tomorrow. In fact, I'm just going to go straight and engage with one of the gentlemen here. So thank you so much indeed for your time. You were just talking to us off air about tomorrow. It's a big day for this country. What do you make of tomorrow's elections?
Well, it's going to be a very big day, and I'm very happy that the president has been preaching about peace, and it seems people have accepted that, because since we've never had any incident about the people killing each other. It's not like other years where we've been seeing people hitting each other. I think people of Zimbabwe are now civilized.
What about the key issues for you as a voter? What do you want to see? We know that the issue of the economy for Zimbabwe has always been a primary issue, but for you, what do you want to see happening in this country?
It's production. But because of sanctions, people have turned themselves into buying and selling, which is not proper for any country. What is very important is production. If people were to produce, automatically people will be employed. But when you do buying and selling, there's no production, there's no employment of people.
What do you say to those who are still doubtful about voting tomorrow? They say, we've been voting, but you haven't seen any change. What would be your message?
In fact, I have been supplying PA systems. And I've seen people, they are eager to make sure there's a difference.
And just before I let you go, sir, 2018 was so violent, unfortunately. Are you hoping that it's going to be better this time in terms of the arrangement and people just accepting the true will of the Zimbabweans?
Well, not only to praise the president, even the MPs, they've now known that production is the answer. So they are all preaching about the production. So we need our people to get into production, and so that the creation of employment, which is very important. If people are idle, there's room for misbehaving. So it's very important that we engage ourselves into production.
All right, so thank you so much indeed for being so generous with your time. So, Naledi, that's one of the voters here in the hustle and bustle of Harare. So there's a great deal of excitement ahead of tomorrow. So the message of peace as well has really just been emphasized quite extensively, but also with the Zimbabwean Electoral Commission making an appeal to all political role players in terms of making sure that they do adhere to the code of conduct. There was a peace pledge that was signed by the political parties, but also in the main talking about a number of issues. And also in the main, tomorrow here in Zimbabwe is going to be a public holiday to allow people to go and exercise their democratic right.
Yeah, what of the presence of international observers? Is that something that we're seeing quite prominently in these elections, Kyle?
Well, most certainly, Naledi, that's been one of the perennial challenges facing this country when it comes to the accreditation. But there has been an assurance from the Zimbabwean Information Ministry that they will try and expedite the process. So they spoke about the very unprecedented number of the media houses who came to the country. In fact, there has been a list that has been issued by the department in terms of making sure that they are able to address address the delays that have been encountered in the process. But also I can tell you this much, campaigning now has officially ended here in Zimbabwe. So now the ball is essentially right in the court of the voters, who will have a very enormous task of making sure that they choose their preferred candidates. About 11 presidential candidates, they've been crisscrossing this country, selling their manifestos, talking about what they want to do. But also you do have incumbent President Emerson Mnangagwa, who's been talking about re-election, saying this is his last term. He wants to continue with the main issue of the economic revival in Zimbabwe and talking about all the critical issues. But it's going to really boil down to a two-horse race, and also with the Triple C, Nelson Chamisa as well, who has proven to be a very formidable contender. And also you do have others as well who have just been pushing their messages as well. But on the ground you do have the international observers from the SADC region, from the African Union, from the Commonwealth, but also in some of the countries really that have just traditionally not allowed in Zimbabwe, given the hostility around the very contentious issue of sanctions. So really this time around, the space has really just been widened for so many role players to come through.
Yeah.